Hello and welcome to the Bibliophile series, episode 29. In this series, we go through articles of the world and I provide my opinion on them. How should you be reading them and everything? And opinions on issues as well. This article is about a Kenyan farmer, Machogu, and how he has become a beacon of light for the climate change skeptics. So this article was written by Travis Scott, a journalist, and this was published on opinionnest.net. Let's read through the article. In an unexpected turn, Kenyan farmer Jusper Machogu has risen to prominence as a vocal climate change skeptic, gaining significant attention on social media for his controversial views. The 29-year-old farmer from Kisii in southwest Kenya has garnered a substantial following on X, formerly known as Twitter, where he shares glimpses of his daily farming activities, such as weeding, planting garlic, and harvesting avocados. However, it is his outspoken denial of man-made climate change that has significantly amplified his online presence. Now, climate change happens to be one of those wonderful issues in which 99% of the scientific community believes that the climate change that is happening right now is on account of, it is anthropogenic. It is on account of human intervention. But then there is this very minute group of scientists and people, especially who have vested interests, who claim that no, climate change is natural. Climate change is happening on account of natural order of things. There is nothing that human beings can do. And any and all efforts made towards green energy or sustainable energy or reducing fossil fuel consumption, all of this is misguided, simply against progress. And yet, the idea of neutrality is such, the stupid neutrality idea, is such that both these voices sort of get equal credence when they're discussed on different programs in the news stations. This is very, very disappointing. Yet, that is the state of affairs that we live in right now. Machogu's social media journey took a dramatic turn when he began sharing debunked theories about climate change. Remember, the stories that he's sharing are debunked theories. Debunked theories. The ones that have been proven to be false, leading to a surge in followers and a financial support. Whenever there is a crime, whenever somebody is doing something weird, always look for the motive. And the motive here is surge in followers and financial support. Despite receiving thousands of dollars in donations, some from Western individuals linked to fossil fuel interests, Machogu maintains that his views are independently formed and genuinely held. Again, this idea of freedom of speech, this idea of, let's say, your opinion cannot be enforced upon the others. There are two things. One is opinion, the other is statement of fact. Now, if somebody tomorrow stands up and says, gravity is not real, it is actually there is a demon hidden within the inner layers of earth that is pulling us towards it. Of course, you will laugh at that person because scientifically, almost the same proportion of people who say gravity is real is the same proportion of people who say climate change is caused by humans. Yet, because climate change is opposed by corporate interests, by fossil fuel industry, it happens to be a debate for the other one because there is no vested interest in this, claiming that gravity exists. There is no opposition to that idea. Somebody who claims gravity does not exist is viewed weirdly. Additionally, there are certain things you are good at. Say, if I am a good business person, that does not automatically translate into I will be a good cricket franchise owner. If I'm a good cricket franchise owner, if I'm a good, let's say, politician, that does not automatically mean I will be a good judge in civil cases and criminal cases. There are skills that you develop in a certain domain. Now, this fellow, our fellow farmer, Jusper Machogu, he look at the weirdness of the situation. You have the overwhelming majority of the scientific community claiming climate change is on account of human action. But then a farmer, and we, as of now, let us give him the benefit of the doubt. He has some scientific backing. He has some scientific research that he has done, but he claims his views are independently formed. Independently formed, as in on account of his own research. That seems a little too far-fetched. Yet he gets a lot of, he gains significant attention. He gets following on Twitter. He gets donations for his cause. Seems very, very circumspect. Contrary to the scientific consensus that human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, are accelerating global warming, Machogu argues otherwise. In a February tweet, he asserted, climate change is mostly natural. A warmer climate is good for life, and frequently uses the hashtag climate scam to voice his skepticism. See, scientific consensus is something, but he will go on to say, no, climate change is mostly natural. A warmer climate is good for life. This is in direct contravention of what the scientific community is coming up with. Yet, this fellow is given some sort of credence, is given a platform, all sorts of wonderful things. Understand, if it is night time and somebody says it is 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and somebody is playing devil's advocate and claims, okay, then it is 12 o'clock in the afternoon in some part of the world, not necessarily here. That can happen. But most people, most sane people would go, are you crazy? Right now it is night time. Similarly, climate change scientists, people whose job it is to figure out things, are saying it is on account of human action. But this farmer with unknown scientific credentials is telling us, no, it is a scam. It is a scam. Okay. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has highlighted that while Africa contributes minimally to global greenhouse gas emissions, it is extremely vulnerable to climate impacts such as severe heat waves, droughts, and floods. Despite this, Machogu insists that there is no climate crisis. Okay. Everything, I will keep all the evidence, all the scientific data to the side. I will make my own claims because it fits my purpose, because it gets me financial support, it gets me followers. I'll keep on making claims that may be that are rooted in untruths and suggest that climate change narrative is a strategy by Western nations to hinder Africa's development. Okay. Now, this also brings us to a very interesting idea. See, what has happened is the Western countries, the Europe and North America and everything, they were the first ones to get industrially advanced. Now, when they got rich, they made the products, they colonized other countries, they sold the products there. That is how India's colonization also started. The East India Company had come here to sell their products. After the colonization has happened, and then they realized all this manufacturing, all this construction, all this factory work is ruining the climate there. They moved the manufacturing units out east towards other nations. Now they have maintained their own structure. You have lesser production there, you have lesser manufacturing there. Their climate is better. Now the other nations that are not as financially developed, in order to reach that stage in the evolution of an economy, it usually starts off at agrarian level, then it moves on to manufacturing, and then it moves on to services. The Western economies have already moved on to services. Primary GDP contributor is services. But manufacturing happens to be for developing economies. India is an exception to this rule. In India, we directly went from agricultural to services. We completely, as in, at least majorly skipped over the manufacturing phase of our economy's evolution. But then nations that are not as developed, and they want to reach that economic state where they can fend for themselves and have development for their people, manufacturing seems like a reasonable path. But at that time, the Western nations, which engaged in the same practices back in the day, will wag their fingers at them. Oh, no, you are causing pollution. You are doing this. You are doing that. So it is understandable. The argument is understandable. You did it. You stopped now. But you did it, reaped the benefits, got to the top of the economic food chain. And now when somebody else is trying to do the same, you are being presumptuous and claiming, no, it should not be done. this is not net carbon neutral, this is not good for the environment. It seems a little hypocritical, and you have to understand where the African nations and the other nations are coming from, wherein they're saying we want to improve our economy, we want to earn money, but then moralistic thinking and very hypocritical moralistic thinking from the Western world comes into play. No, no, this is not good for the environment, and therefore you have to cut down on your carbon emissions. All that jazz is happening. Kenyan climate scientist Joyce Kimutai, who has contributed to IPCC reports, IPCC's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, criticizes Machogu's stance, attributing it to a lack of understanding. See, scientists, even when they are being rude, they will assume the best in people. They're saying it is on account of lack of understanding, not because of some vested interest, not because it is personally benefiting him. It is because he doesn't understand. This is not religion. This is not just belief. It's about analyzing the data and seeing changes in the data. Saying that climate change is a hoax is just really not true, she stated. And makes sense. Essentially, what she's saying is we have data in front of us. We can't really ignore the data and say, no, no, the data is wrong. What I feel is the truth. That is the entire domain of alternative facts made popular during the presidential campaign of Donald Trump in 2016. In case, just Google the word alternative facts and Kellyanne Conway interview on some news channel. I don't remember the news channel, but Kellyanne Conway. Trump was found making absolutely untrue statements, and then Kellyanne Conway defended back. Those are your facts. Our president chooses to believe in alternative facts. Alternative facts is such a nice phrasing for lies that it almost seeps through without objection. Machogu's journey into climate change denial began in late 2021 after conducting his own research on the topic. Now, see, own research is within quotes to imply that it wasn't really research. He subsequently launched the Fossil Fuels for Africa campaign, advocating for the continent's utilization of oil, gas, and coal reserves. The perspective resonates with some African leaders, like Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, who views Western restrictions on fossil fuel as hypocritical. And this is what I was referring to earlier. The Western nations, when they were developing, they utilized fossil fuels to the max. They did all the manufacturing, they did all the construction. And now, when the other nations that are not as developed want to do the same, they are saying, no, no, we should not be doing this. Greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions and this and that, all that jazz. The restrictions seem hypocritical. However, climate activists such as Ugandan Nicholas Omonuk highlight the negative consequences of fuel exploration in Africa, citing Nigeria's Niger Delta, where long-term oil extraction has led to poverty, health risk, and pollution. Okay. If you also do a little bit of digging, you will realize this Niger Delta in which exploration, oil exploration has happened, it was not done by an African company at all. It was done by a US company. And therefore, while doing that exploration, they were extremely cavalier about the impact that it would have towards flora and fauna in the nearby region. It led to human poverty, health risks, and pollution. Okay. Despite the controversy, Machogu has built a substantial following of over 25,000 users in X, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't look like a very huge number. But yet, if 25,000 people, see, of these 25,000 people, let's attribute 10,000 to ironic followers who feel that he's a stupid person. He is making untrue claims. But let's see where this goes. People who, when there is a fight happening, sit down with a tub of popcorn. But 15,000 users would genuinely be believing his shenanigans, which is very, very disappointing. Though BBC Verify discovered that most interactions come from users in US, UK, and Canada. See, BBC Verify is a wing of BBC that checks out, as in basically online data or online information that is present. They verify the data. That is why the name is BBC Verify. And they discovered that most interactions come from US, UK, and Canada, many of whom promote various conspiracy theories. Basically, the support that he's getting is from people who are highly suspect in what they say and believe. The online community has been instrumental in supporting Machogu's campaign financially. Campaign financially. Okay. Machogu has openly shared the ways he has utilized donations, including furnishing his new home and supporting local families by building a borehole, distributing gas bottles, and connecting homes to the electricity grid. Okay. See, while he has used it for personal needs, furnishing his new home, he has also supported local families by building a borehole, overcoming the problem of water scarcity, distributing gas bottles, and connecting homes to the electricity grid. Wonderful. He denies that donations have influenced his climate change views, stating, "Nobody has told me to change my views. I don't have a problem with making money by saying what I believe I should say or doing what's good for my community." Okay. Again, even if you do believe climate change is man-made and everything, can you understand the motivation behind why he is sort of going against the grain, against the scientific community? Because there is a very clear motivation for him to do so. He's getting money because he's making those claims, and utilizing that money, he's fulfilling his personal needs, and he's also helping his community. That is a wonderful outcome for him and his community, even though there is a there is a there is an ethical conundrum here. When you're propagating lies but you're benefiting the people around you, is this appropriate? It's as good as, let's say you're playing cricket and you've nicked the ball to the wicket keeper. Should you walk or should you not walk? There is an argument to be made. You should walk, because if you're out, you should play fair, you should not cheat, you should not do this, you should not do that. The other argument is, I may play fair does not necessarily mean the other team will play fair, and then we will end up losing the match, which is not great. One more argument why you should not work is, it is the job of the umpires to see who is out or who is not out. Your job there is to try to give your team the best chance of winning, and you walking does not give your team the best chance of winning, and therefore you should not work. But then, while you can understand all these perspectives, in the grand scheme of things, on which side do you lie on ends up defining what sort of moral character or fiber you have. Okay. His international influence has been notable, with Canadian author Jordan Peterson endorsing him, which is also a sort of, if you know Jordan Peterson, if you have any idea of who and what Jordan Peterson is, getting his approval is sort of a death knell for any reasonable person's approval. Endorsing him, and a US fossil fuel advocate sponsoring his trip to a South African oil and gas conference. See? While you can make the claim, nobody has told me to change my views, can you see? He wasn't being offered a sponsored trip to South Africa oil and gas conference when he was a farmer. When he was a simple farmer, when he was simply going about doing his job, he wasn't being offered that. Now that he has changed his tune, he is getting benefits, he's getting donations, he's getting sponsored trips to conferences. Of course, these are emoluments, these are benefits that he's reaping. And then he cannot say, no, my views are my views. I'm saying that because I believe in it. There is a clear, direct financial motive. Additionally, a UK film crew interviewed him for a documentary that portrays climate change as an eccentric environmental scare. Okay. See, did he have opportunities for doing UK film crew interviews? Or did he have sponsored trips coming his way when he was making the climate change? He wasn't making any statements, and he was going about doing his job. Which is all the more reason why his views, see, if there was science behind it, if there was science and there was some data that he presented that proves it, great. But so far, his contribution to the discussion has been debunked theories, and he has conducted his own research on the topic, which has not been referenced anywhere, which has not been referenced in the article. It is not worthwhile sharing, therefore it is not present. Additionally, he's getting money out of it, he's getting sponsored trips out of it, he's getting notoriety out of it. Seems that this does not seem above board. Amy Westervelt, a US investigative climate reporter, notes that Africa is increasingly seen as a lucrative market for fossil fuel development, making voices like Machogu's valuable for those interests. Understand this again in relation to the US and the European countries. They realized they don't want to engage in oil digging and natural gas exploration in their own country because it ruins the climate. And then the best place to go next would be Africa, because there are two things. Their governance is fairly bad, as in you have lots of dictators in place. You have lots of countries whose GDP is lower than a lot of companies' revenue turnover for an entire year. There are lots of countries there that can be financially dominated. So, going to Africa and engaging in exploration makes a lot of sense. However, Dr. Joyce Kimutai, referenced earlier, warns that spreading such conspiracy theories could undermine crucial climate action in Africa, where climate literacy remains low. That is really, really dangerous. She cautioned. Basically, I will mark my own bias in this. I believe in climate change. Not only I believe in climate change, I know it to be real. It's not like I believe in it. Stats tells us that, data tells us that, scientists tells us that, and I have absolutely no reason to believe otherwise. I have absolutely no reason to believe otherwise. And even if I did, I would much rather defer to people who are experts in this domain compared to my own random thought or a random hypothesis that I have come up with. So when I'm reading about Juspan Machogu, I of course have my own doubts over the legitimacy of his claims that he's making. Yet, hopefully, you realize going against the grain, even when there is no proof, there is no reasoning that supports it, it can be beneficial because it makes you stand out. And on account of you standing out, there are rewards that come your way. But then the ethical conundrum here is there are rewards that you may justly apply and benefit yourself and benefit your community. But then the damage that you're causing, which is referenced by Dr. Kimutai, um, damage that you're causing in Africa where climate literacy is low, or giving voice to people who are skeptics of climate change. Skeptics is basically deniers. Skeptic is a very, very nice word. They're not skeptical, they are deniers. They simply say climate change is not happening, which is what Machogu is also doing. They're absolute deniers. They are anti-science. Let's put it very nicely. They are anti-science. They're against the data that comes in. And for fun, you would also see, if you talk to people around you, even in India, this strategy of going against the grain, making some weird statement, making some weird fact, making claims that are contrary to popular opinion has become very popular. Now, when it is opinion and you're going against it, I will give you that freedom. I will give you that leash. But when it is data and you're going against it, that it is then that I have a problem. How can you go against data? How can you oppose to data? But, okay, that is what is happening here. The statistical analysis should come up shortly. This article had 623 words. It was a fairly simple article. 28 sentences total, 6.92 around. Grade 7 person should be able to read this and understand it. The reading score is 77.735, and which is fairly easy to read. So it wasn't so much about the article, it was about the idea of when you go against the grain, look at why people behave in a certain way instead of simply calling them bad or calling them good. Understand Machogu, for all the flaws and the danger of his misstatements, there is a reason why he's doing it. There is a grander reason why underdeveloped nations are looking to exploit fossil fuels in order to boost the economic prowess of the country. So all of those contexts are important for understanding things that are going on in this world. That will be all for this episode. See you in the next one. Okay, people. Bye.